Ladies and gentlemen, hello and welcome to Unit Lost. I am Josh, and today we're going to be talking about UK versus France. What else could we talk about, ladies and gentlemen? Focusing primarily on this map here at Blizzard World. Not a map that we've seen on Pro OverAnalyzed too much, but this game was full of a lot of actual surprisingly tactical play. I know it's going to be a lot of 3-3. There's a lot of tanks and a lot of supports involved and not too much DPS, but there's still a lot going on here that's really worth highlighting from a tactical sort of point of view. Alright guys, so first things first, like they just showed a shot of the crowd. I want to just give a huge shout out to the French crowd. Like, they were insanely cool. Both myself and Stylosa were super impressed with just the atmosphere in the room. It was really, really quite something to behold. It felt like you're at a football game, you know, and everyone's chanting, player names, they're singing songs, they're singing the national anthem a few times, and they're doing all sorts of really cool things. And like, it was an amazing atmosphere. Unfortunately, it was an atmosphere, you know, against our team. And we tried, ladies and gents, we tried to chant, we tried to cheer, and we tried to, you know, sound out a little bit compared to the French crowd. But when you're like, there was about, 30 Brits total in that crowd and probably about 1,970 Frenchmen, so they were a bit louder, unfortunately. Alright, so just as the gates open, we're going to be doing the usual. We're going to give this a good old pause and take a look at the team comps. There's not going to be too much to talk about in terms of team strategy, however, because it is pretty much the standard that you have seen throughout the tournament. You can see Kib there on the Widowmaker for now. Don't worry, that's going to be changing any moment now to go to Azaria. Okay, so France running the old 3-3. So we'll I noticed that the casters are taking to calling this 3-3. This is also what's known as Goats Comp, and what's been interesting is the evolution of Goats Comp, particularly these Zenyatas coming out. There's a few different variants of Goats, and the way that it works is basically, if you're going on Goats versus Goats, or if you're going on 3-3 versus 3-3, you really want to have the Zenyatta. It gives you extra damage, Discord Orb is really good, Transcendence is super powerful, and you want that Zen. You can also maybe have an Ana instead, because the Ana gives you an extra win condition in terms of throwing out a good nade, basically a good anti-heal grenade, nullifying the healing on the enemy team, and getting you some kills. The other factor, of course, is that powerful ultimate that is the Nano Boost, where you can do things like send a Reinhardt in and force a good Earth Shadow, or get more value. If they're not running Goats to counter you, though, if they're running like a dive comp, then perhaps you want the Moira, who's a little bit more resilient and a little bit more evasive. So a little bit of insight there into the support meta, and into sort of the support meta around Goats. Okay then, so you're going to see the UK just scout out with Kib, maybe look for a cheeky pick, but not find anything. Kib goes to spawn and swaps to that Zarya. Now then, the big objective for the UK at the moment is just actually force their way in and get around to the side, get to an area where they can actually fight and not get spammed out too much, and then make a move on to the point. You can see that France aren't going to engage them in the choke. France are picking their timings, mostly building up Poco's charge. He's just getting a ton of ultimate charge, and now waiting for those barriers to sort of cycle on the cooldown, and then come back online. So now Poco's going to start doing a ton of damage. This guy already on 40% of his ultimate. He's just right clicking into Team UK. It could be a factor of, Chris's barrier not in the right place necessarily. It could be a factor of Smex not picking up enough reducing enough damage, but that play from France was also insanely good. This is something that France were doing a lot, and it looked like Chris, why was Chris so far out of position? Well, France was doing a lot with Ben Best, for example, using the Reinhardt hammer to almost pull Chris into the team. They were using the whip shot from Brigitte to push him further. They're using the boot from Lucio to push him further out of position, and as a result, they were doing a great job of controlling him and isolating him and taking him down. Poco already has a Graviton Surge. Kib is nowhere near his on 66% at the moment, and Poco is probably not going to leave like this 90% charge. He is just going to be free farming non-stop, constantly getting the left click into Smex and then throwing out a right click once that defense matrix drops. Huge Graviton Surge comes out, but Boombox, again, this is that Overwatch League caliber coming out from these two players, from Boombox and from Poco, where they're just getting these ultimates that much faster than everybody else. So Boombox gets the Transcendence out, keeps everybody alive. This lets UK get a counterpunch, soon gets a little bit out of position, gets caught out by the Earth Shatter, and now the UK are on the offensive. Now their ultimates are coming online, and now they can start pushing, throwing a couple of ults in, getting a couple of kills. Uncharacteristic mistake out of Unco, like he played a phenomenal series, but went with the Transcendence there when only two people alive. That's not necessarily optimal, but as a result, the UK will take the point. But France do a very clever thing here. Unko, I think, actually does get a good respawn as well, so he spawns with the rest of the team sort of towards the front lines, and this lets France go in for a very early hold just around the corner here on this choke point. France also very, very good at understanding sort of a lot of their win conditions, getting a good Graviton Surge out, for example, or just getting a good Shatter out regardless of sort of what else is happening. So you can see they're just going to start pressuring, and this is also all they're looking to do at the moment, is just pressure Christopher's shield. Pressure Chris, pressure his shield, and force the UK to use healing cooldowns, force that health pack out from the Brigitte, force Cruz to try and do something. Speaking of Cruz, might have got a bit nuts there. I think he went for a bit of a dive on the backline on his own, and unfortunately, well, that doesn't quite work out when you're just a Lucio. So as a result, Cruz goes down. The UK cannot speed at this point, so France know they have that mobility advantage. The Lucio is so important in determining the flow of the game, the pace of the game. Once that Lucio is down, Wins can activate speed boost, France can go in and go for a safe cleanup. So very well executed there by France, realizing they have that opportunity, realizing they have that momentum, pushing in and taking control of the point and taking control of this corner in a really decisive way. Now this gives them time as well to think about what they want to do. Perhaps they want to just force a Graviton Surge from Poco, maybe get some results off the back of that one. So France already coming up with plans, already coming up with strategies, and you can see that they're still pressuring down Chris as much as possible. Grav goes in, Boombox comes out with a trance, just negates it. There's no follow-up. There's no follow-up from Nico. There's no follow-up with a Diva Bomb to get the combo off. So as a result, Graviton Surge doesn't really get too much of anything. And this is something that in the Team UK camp we notice with France, which is that they do tend to just use these ultimates as sort of solo ultimates. UK, meanwhile, going for a little bit more of a combo. They're trying to get Chris in position, trying to get something from that. He does manage to block Bembest counter Shatter, and now we get the Shatter of our own. But that sound barrier is still up and running, still alive, and we're having such a hard time getting through the damage that Poco is pushing out. Like, this is literally pretty much just Poco's DPS that is keeping the UK pinned in this choke point. So they can't run forward, they don't run forward into it, and as a result, they don't end up getting any kills off the back of that Earth Shatter. A huge missed opportunity there from Team UK. Maybe a moment of indecisiveness. Maybe they were all taken down too low as well by the damage coming out by France, because one of the things that we want to highlight about the French team that we noticed was the French team just felt like they did more damage than anybody else in the game, in the tournament. And like, that's a weird thing, right? Because GOATS isn't like a super high execution comp in terms of strategy. It's not a super high end comp in terms of, oh, well, you know, the Widowmaker has to hit shots. No, it's more like a brawly comp, right? It's a fighty brawly comp. Yet somehow France were getting so much value out of it. Now then, Bembest got a little bit out of position there in the previous fight, just managed to get pulled sort of a little bit out of place, got caught out and managed to get taken down. As a result, UK surges forward. France holding extremely close to the spawn though. They know they are fine. They've got probably one or maybe even two more fights on this stage. So a nice benefit of that close hold is that you can actually squeeze out a couple more fights. United Kingdom setting up for the next team fight win. Of course, they're going to try and get Kib in position to get a good Graviton Surge out. And this is why I mentioned the crowd earlier, because I do think that the crowd, the French crowd, not only elevates the French team, and I know the UK did a press conference afterwards where they said the crowd doesn't affect us, but the UK were making some uncharacteristic mistakes, and this is one of them, unfortunately. Kib really telegraphing there, like popping out from the flank, shooting a little bit of damage out, and then Poco's just, well, he's going to Graviton Surge. Like, he has to do it from that position. If he doesn't, he's going to end up getting caught out and die. So naturally, it's the easiest thing in the world then for, Nico to just catch him with the Defense Matrix and just catch the Graviton Surge. As a result, Graviton Surge doesn't come out. France end up with a huge amount of momentum, start again pressuring down Chris, getting a couple of kills, surging forward, and going back to hold that first choke point. So a little bit of an uncharacteristic error out of Kib there. Maybe it's the nerves, maybe it's, you know, the land jitters coming into it a little bit. I don't think it's really nerves, it's more like pressure, and it affects the players in like very small ways. They don't get like timid or afraid, they just start making decisions that they normally wouldn't make. And we're going to come back to this concept later, where players on LAN tend to just, you know, they'll miss a shot that they normally hit, or they'll just make a slightly silly decision that they normally wouldn't make, that we normally wouldn't see out of them in scrims. Beautiful job by Smex there, though, to catch that Graviton Surge. That one was a lot less telegraphed, a lot harder to spot, and as a result, the UK in with a fighting chance to get back to point. Now they go in with a counter grab. Cruz does something really cool here, which is he jumps in front of the team, uses sound barrier, and then speed boosts off to go and touch the payload to make sure that we don't lose just in terms of a C9. So Cruz gets onto the point. Good objective awareness there to go and do that. Manages to buy enough time for the team to get there, manages to buy enough time for Christopher to get this huge shatter just underneath Bembest's shield, lines up the pin, gets Bembest down. Really nicely executed there by the UK to have a sort of a good idea of what they want to do in terms of who goes to the payload, who contests, how do we win this fight, what ultimates do we need, how do we pressure them out. So now then, France in a little bit of trouble here because they all died a little bit late, so they're still on the fence of do we contest, do we not contest? And it looks like they just let it go, and then we have one of the most unusual fights, I've got to say. Like, this I think is France being a little bit cocky at this point, where they actually go for a contest right after the point is captured. They try and do this hold right here at the start of third. This is a long respawn timer for either team. Bomb goes out, manages to actually do a lot of damage, doesn't really get too many kills. Graviton Surge goes in, but UK have all their cooldowns. Unlike in most fights where we've seen this, the UK normally have been pressured out for a long time by all the damage coming out of Poco. This time that isn't happening, so the UK have all their cooldowns still. They managed to survive it, heal through it, and then managed to get a counter swing here with the Graviton Surge. While Chris went down, that's fine. France were putting all their focus on him, trying to kill him off as quickly as possible, but the rest of the UK could survive, regroup a little bit, and then set themselves up with a nice ultimate combo to actually win things out. So then, now UK have momentum in their favor. They only really have to win this one fight. France might be able to squeeze out a second if they get to point quick enough, but a beautiful combo coming out from Mikey A and Christopher, just setting up the Brigitte stun combo and the Reinhardt Earth Shatter. I know the casters were super praising of Chris, but I will highlight Mikey A's performance there of just getting into position, making sure the stun lands, and getting rid of Ben Best, and both of those things happening at the same time. Sometimes when you try those combos, for example, the stun goes off, and then there's like a little bit of a lag, and then Chris shatters, but no, the coordination between Mikey A and Christopher was superb there. They get the ultimate through, and manage to get a clean teamfight win, and now Kib knows his win condition, right? They don't have to win the fight on the point, they just have to keep France off it. To do that, Kib just needed to get 7% ult charge, put the Graviton Surge somewhere where there isn't a contest, and there we go. And there's me in the middle, there's Sty. I know I'm an ugly son of a bitch, but you're just going to have to deal with it. And then Sty cheering on. We had to show support for the UK lads. They needed that little bit of an uplift. It's always a little bit worrying when you see the faces and they look serious. They're such a jokey, laughing team. So when they managed to take that point, we were hoping to see something of a resurgence from them. There's Big Chris, just giving people the tactical laydown as well. Just telling people what to do and cracking the whip, no doubt, in-game. Alright guys, so it's now time for the UK defense, and what I want to try and highlight with this review, I suppose, what I want you guys to try and appreciate is that while 3-3 is a very, very brawly comp, I know the bitrate on this sort of the video quality drops quite a lot because, there's so much going on screen that the player can't keep up with it, unfortunately, but what I want to try and highlight for you guys is that while 3-3 is a very brawly style of fighting, a very brawly style of comp where you're just sort of bashing into each other, there is a lot that goes into it in terms of getting cooldowns, the enemy to use their cooldowns, getting your cooldowns right in terms of barriers, Zarya bubbles, extremely important in this game. So it's why like Poco, for example, seems like such a huge star and a huge factor on Team France, where his Zarya was absolutely incredible. France testing the waters a little bit, seeing if they want to do something a bit different, bring out the Sombra, but decide against it because they see that the UK is going to be running that 3-3 strat. The UK just playing from high ground, again, just getting a bit of spam out, Kib trying to get some barrier up and running as well, and trying to get some cheeky early ultimate charge. You can see Boombox as well already building up some, and Unco actually doing a very good job of building up his Transcendence nice and early, but again, just jockeying for position right now, pressure going on Kib, a lot of pressure going on Soon as well as he gets caught out there with the stun, is forced onto the back foot, has to move back, and now this is where both teams are trying to stabilize, figuring out what cooldowns they want to use in terms of healing, but the pressure is just too much on both of the tanks. They both end up dropping, but Smex manages to get in, gets himself a nice early kill onto the D-Mech on D.Va, and D.Va is such a huge source of damage on this. I know when watching a lot of scrims with 3-3, I had my eye on over Smex's shoulder, and Smex was often like the first on DPS quite often because he does so much damage to those tanks, so losing Nico actually a big factor there in terms of getting results off the back of that Graviton Surge. And of course a huge shout out to Cruz, getting a sound barrier up and running, going to keep the team alive, and this means that the UK now can build up some new ultimates as well. Mikey A activates the rally, everyone gets some more armor, everyone is that little bit safer, and now the UK looking good on this first point hold. Managed to hold the first push, but there's a dangerous combo coming up for France. They have the Graviton Surge, they have the D.Va ultimate, and they need to set that one up, but this is something that the UK, I love seeing them do. This is something we're trying to get them to practice more and more, which is just not waiting for the enemy team to do things. They set up this early play, try and catch the enemy team before they can do anything, and manage to get a very clean team fight win. The only sort of downside to winning like this is that you don't build up anything in response. You win so cleanly almost that it denies you resources. You use 2 ultimates, and then you don't really gain any ultimate charge on anybody else. So it's something to always consider in these teamfights wins when fights with GOATs or 3-3 tend to go very, very long. So you tend to be able to cycle ultimates quite a lot and quite aggressively. And so as a result of that fight, UK didn't really gain anything. They're still playing off Chris's ultimate. France, meanwhile, do have that danger combo available to them, that Diva Bomb and Zarya grab that is so difficult to do anything with. It all comes down to like the bubbles and the Zarya efforts to do things, but with the Reinhardt down as well, they don't even need that the Diva Bomb to cap that one out. They can just sort of win out by sheer damage alone as the supports drop. Everyone takes a little bit too much damage before the grab goes in. There's no support ultimate to keep everybody alive. I think Boombox was just a tiny bit short there, and as a result, everybody on Team UK goes down. France managing to take the point a little bit slower than Team UK, I will say. I'll take our wins wherever they popped up. I'll take our victories. But as a result, France now can start their push. UK gonna try and hold this first corner, have managed to regroup, and are gonna try and give France a little bit of their own medicine here. So Mikey A activates the rally, but a beautiful shatter out of Ben Best sets him up for a nice, easy fight here. Diva Bomb goes in. Cruz just couldn't get out of the way of it just in time. Ends up going down. And again, losing that Lucio is so huge. You provide so much healing in this comp. You provide so much mobility as well that it just means that France now have all initiative. France could just stabilize. They could just take their time if they wanted to regroup and push into the UK, who can't really run anywhere without that speed boost, without that Lucio, or they could just do what they did, which is just engage super hard, use their cooldowns, and win out the fight. So France now pushing through on second. Team UK trying to rally. UK have a lot of ultimates in the bag, though. They can try and get a lot done. And again, the big win condition here is Kib. So you're going to see Poco do something kind of interesting here, which is he spots that Kib is just out on his own, fires the Graviton Surge, and just gets Kib. And the casters were like, well, you know, it's a one-man ultimate. That's not the greatest, but it does shut down the UK. The UK needed Kib alive. You need that Zarya Graviton Surge to win the fight, and it's such a crucial kill. It's actually like, it legitimately is a 900 IQ play, because with no Kib, there's no win condition for the UK. There's no way they can win that fight, and so you just kill the Zarya. And this is like one of the tactical things that you try and do when you're thinking about what the enemy team has and what the enemy team's resources are. Well, they know that the UK has Graviton Surge, they know that the UK wants to use it, so if you just kill the Zarya, well, then you don't have to worry about that ultimate anymore. You don't have to use a Transcendence, you don't have to use any Earth Shadows to try and stop them engaging on you. You just kill the Zarya. So Kib, again, a little bit uncharacteristically out of position, lets himself get caught out there by the grab, goes down, and France just sees all this momentum, start now pushing very aggressively into third, and you can see Poco has built up another Graviton Surge during this time. Again, Team UK a little bit out of position, perhaps, letting Poco basically farm them just to build up more and more ultimate charge. Another Graviton Surge goes in, he's already rebuilt it, has to activate, the UK has to activate ult in response. They try and set up a combo of their own, but it just doesn't work out. The barriers are just in the right place. Beautiful shatter comes out of Chris, but again, it's just not quite enough damage coming through. Now the counter shatter comes out of Ben Best, brings everybody down. So again, France able to hold on to those cooldowns, not pressured enough, surviving these combos coming out of them, using Zarya bubbles, healing, Lucio amp it up, for example, using the health pack from Brigitte, can't be taken down, can't be killed, and as a result, the UK, well, they're activating the combos, but they're not doing the groundwork, they're not doing the pressuring that France is doing, and they're not putting out that aggression. You can see Poco almost has another Graviton Surge, like he's just building these things ridiculously fast as they start pushing in towards the end. Team UK trying with a desperation stall, just trying to slow it down. Boombox does a great job getting the ultimate up and running. Diva Bomb on the point though, Graviton Surge pulls Smex into it at the very least. He gets demeched, Shatter across the point now just to cap things off, and France complete the map in pretty gosh darn good time. So again, you're seeing the difference between Team UK and Team France, and like I want to highlight this, that the big difference between the two is that France are pressuring more and France are using their cooldowns better, and as a result they are just outperforming the UK. Their focus is a little bit better, their cooldown usage is a little bit better. Meanwhile, the ultimate economy, the ultimate usage is actually about even between both teams. It's just that France are doing so much better at setting up the groundwork, setting up what they need to do to make those combos effective. I will also give a shout out to the camera guy that kept putting the camera on us. Like we very intentionally made sure that we were going to get the front row. We actually sat through all the previous match just to make sure that we would have front row seating, to make sure that, yeah, we could actually, you know, have some representation in the crowd. But I remember that we lost on one map and the camera guy showed us on screen. And I was literally sat next to me going, "What are you doing? What are you doing?" Just to the camera guy, like, why are you showing us when we're losing? Come on, don't be mean, France. Again, it's fine. It's just, oh god, the French crowd, they were something else, and it really does warm my heart to see like that amount of local support for the team. It was incredible to watch, and it's going to be fun going to BlizzCon and facing the USA against another audience that is going to be massively biased against us. So that's going to be exciting. That should be really exciting. All right, so the UK, again, 3-3. No great shocks here. If it works, it works. And we're playing it relatively well. But again, I'd say that France is just playing it a little bit better. Perhaps this is the time when we start considering changing things up, as this is map 2 as well, that things aren't quite going to plan. Maybe a little bit of refinement here and there. I do think that if we played at our best, if we played at our highest level, we could probably match France. But unfortunately, we just couldn't sort of maintain the quality that perhaps we were expecting out of the team in this series. Again, Nico caught out nice and early, goes down. And as a result, well, now the damage should start coming in. Now the damage should start ramping up. But you can see Kip's having a tougher time building up that charge. All the focus is on Chris, but Chris gets a beautiful fire strike through. There's no D.Va to eat those up anymore, so he manages to get a huge amount of damage out of that one. Unco goes down, and the UK take first point on that crucial first push. Didn't have much time to do it, but big deal here. Again, France went down very early, so they get all the nearby respawns. They can set up for that second point hold at the choke point nice and early. UK trying to make sure the same thing doesn't happen to them. You can see that they're positioning forward a little bit. They're trying to deny this area as best as they can as Kib tries to build up, but Poco's already built up a Graviton Surge. They get a lot of damage in. Kib goes down early, and again, that Zarya Graviton Surge is such a huge win condition. France know they're a man up. If they can get a lot on this win condition, on this 5 versus 6, then perhaps they could just win it out here. Huge shatter comes out of Chris, however, but again, the UK so pressured and so pushed back, especially with that D.Va bomb just keeping them pinned out of position, that they can't afford to go in and get the kills. As a result, France, with good positioning, good resource management, managed to clear off the point, managed to push the UK off it, and will continue this hold. Very, very nicely done by France there, again, to bring that fight back, especially after it looked a little bit ropey there. You know, the Earth Shadow landed, it could have gone wrong, but they had enough ultimates, they had enough resources where they could win that one out. And so we go to the final hold, and well, UK actually mixing things up, running the Sombra Genji comp, the so-called cycle comp, where you're basically playing off ultimates, you're playing primarily off that nano boost and off the EMP. I think if you watched one of my previous reviews, you heard me talk about this comp a lot in terms of how it works and how it's structured. Building up ultimates and playing around ultimates is the big thing. The scary part, though, for the UK here is that Poco has been building up Graviton Surges incredibly quickly. He's a fearsome thing to behold. France run out, they see that the UK are running this sort of dive style comp. They realize, okay, perhaps we don't have the best team comp for it. And remember what I talked about at the start, where there's variants of GOAT. So you have the Zenyatta, who isn't perhaps the best against a dive comp. So they're going to start switching that one up, bring out the Zarya, and shockingly to me, actually bringing out a Roadhog as well. I think they've noticed that Chris isn't playing to the highest level at the moment, perhaps hoping to catch him up. And remember that I talked about nerves and talked about players, you know, the crowd isn't, you know, they're not nervous necessarily, but they're making slight mistakes. Chris goes in, pressure, puts on a lot of pressure, and then for some reason decides to jump into the team with leap on cooldown and just instantly gets annihilated. Slight mistake from Chris there. I think you'd have to ask him the thoughts behind that one, but doesn't end up working out. Perhaps he was expecting Smex to be behind him to help him out, but as a result, well, the UK's just lost their main tank. This is a comp built around cycling ultimates and using ultimates in a decisive manner, and sure, Chris needs to take some damage. It's how you build up a nano boost nice and quickly, but he just ended up sort of in the middle of the enemy team, went super aggressive into the back line, ended up out of position, and ended up going down. I know Chris has been getting a lot of stick, but I think that was one of the few genuine unforced errors here in this series. Beautiful job from Mikey though to spot out Soon playing a little bit too aggressively here, uses a Sombra hack to catch him out, gets themselves a nice early kill. This puts a lot of pressure off, and so now they can actually go in for a good contest. Nice anti-heal grenade as well, forces France onto the back foot, so they run back towards the spawn. UK can now occupy defensive positioning, have the Dragon Blade available to them. They're going to have nano boost very, very soon as well, but there's still 1 minute 30 on the clock, so this is going to probably be 3 fights at this distance. France try and play aggressively. They use the D.Va bomb to clear the point. Smex makes sure to stay on it, uses his own D.Va bomb, and then the UK goes ham with their ultimates. They just activate absolutely everything. EMP goes off, Nano Boost goes off, Dragon Blade goes off. Now the Dragon Blade and EMP isn't too bad, the Nano Boost isn't too bad, but using everything at the same time, well, that just means that France play back, they play defensively, they play towards spawn. France know that they have a whole minute to play with, and they have ultimates to do that play with. So as a result, France just wait for their moment. They go back in. The UK has burnt out everything that they have, and so France just clears the point, uses these big meaty tanks, uses the Reinhardt hammer, uses the whole hog to push everybody back. Payload slowly inches its way forward. People start dropping down and start going down to the overwhelming DPS and durability of the 3-3 comp, and as a result, France end up pushing in for the win. I don't know whether it was just, poor planning from Team UK. I don't know what their plan was if they decided to go with that. This is what. Why are they showing us? Why are they showing us? We just lost. Why they put the camera on? That's not fair. That's not fair. So yeah, we were just, what are you doing? Anyway, right guys, that's going to be it from me. Thank you for watching to the end. Hopefully you enjoyed the Paris group stage. I certainly did. And hopefully you enjoyed all the hype building up around it. USA next for Team UK. Should be easy, right? 4-0 easy clap. Or teasy clap, I suppose. Alright guys, I'll see you next time. Toodles.